good evening, everyone, and welcome to this first Nayanta conversation. It's a particular pleasure to have this conversation with Ravi Pandit. Ravi is an old friend. We met pretty well for the first time when I was doing my PhD and doing my fieldwork for my PhD in Pune. And Dr. Sabde, who was at that time the Director General of the Maratha Chamber of Commerce and Industry, who my father knew well, I'd gone to see him and, to which firm should I interview and so on. And I was trying to learn about I was doing my PhD on technical entrepreneurship in India. Yes. Yeah. Um, Quite early on in 1984 when I was doing this field work. And he sent me to see Ravi. And I went to Ravi and met him at his house. And we started chatting and we got on really well. And first of all, I was this 24-year-old PhD student. And he ended up asking me to stay on with him and his wife Nirmal for dinner, and we became friends. And then many years later, when Ravi had started KPIT, he made the mistake of asking me to join his board because he thought I knew something about governance since I had a PhD. And I learned a lot about governance when I was on the KPIT board.
I didn't make the mistakes.
And it's been a really warm and nice journey over many years. Ravi is one of Pune's most illustrious entrepreneurs. I think KPIT was probably the first IT company to really get started and grow. Yes, in Pune.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about KPIT. But when I went and met Ravi for the first time in 1984, Ravi had returned a few years earlier from MIT, and he had joined his, in a sense, family business, which was Kirtani and Pandit, which is still going strong as an audit firm and as one of Pune's leading audit firms. But somehow you moved on from Kirtani and Pandit to found KPIT. So, but let's start with Ravi. You grew up in Pune.
Yes.
You're sort of Pune born and bred. What was life like growing up? And who were the major influences on you growing up?
So, like many of us, I come from a typical middle class family. Went to a school, Marathi medium school. But, like most of us, the typical strong middle class values, valuing education, valuing integrity. And so the visionaries or the legends at that time were the people who represented that. And at that time, you would remember Mr. S.L. Kirloskar was really doyen of that, and he was clearly my hero on the industrial side. And so I did my schooling here. I did my BCom here in Pune. I did my CA here, and then I went abroad to the US and to MIT, and as you know, you went to Stanford. Institutions like that make an extraordinary impact on you. They change your life. And so from Pune to MIT was quite a journey. Yeah.
Thanks. And when you came back, and how did the idea come to start KPIT?
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. So
It's not what middle class Maharashtrians did at that time.
yes. So it's very interesting. So one of the courses at MIT, in MIT during the summer holidays, we used to have something called Independent Activity Plan program, and they would take you through different courses. And one of the courses was hard, that was very interestingly called life planning course. And so the course was, you imagine you have lived your full life and you are dead. Okay. And uh, and your friend is speaking on the occasion of your demise, and it's like he's talking your obituary. And what would you want him to say about you after you're gone? No, and that is really the topic of it. And so you are supposed to say what you did all your life, what drove you, what you achieved, where you probably did not do too well. And so the thing that I wrote down was that, and you see, that was the first time I'd gone abroad, right? And when you are abroad, your sense of self is you are an Indian, okay? And so the writing was that I go back to India, I start a company which is amongst India's leading companies in the area of consulting. And and I came back to India. I came back to Kirtan and Pandit. We were a small firm, like 10 people. Today we are over 1,000 people in that firm. And the idea was that how do you convert that into a consulting company? So driver, and at a place like MIT, it teaches you that nothing is impossible for you. You can do everything that you really want to do, because in an institution like this, you see Nobel laureates walking around. If they have achieved the kind of levels they achieve, why can't you? That is a thought. And so I came back, and then uh, at that time, I clearly realized that sitting in Pune would be a accounting backwater. Mumbai is the thing, but most of the accounting companies were getting into information technology, and information technology comes, I think, naturally to accountants, because accountants, you are dealing with numbers, you are dealing with analysis, you are dealing with collection of data, interpretation of data, and that's how the movement happened from kind of accounting to IT and consulting as such. But I would say that the seeds of that were sown in that course at MIT.
Yes, that's yeah, that's actually it's. I think there may be many other people who founded companies
Yes.
that which came out of a similar kind of
Yes.
story and exercise and prompting people to
Yes.
take stock.
To stretch your mind.
By the way, you mentioned that SL Sindhuska was your real model.
Yes.
He was also an MIT graduate.
Absolutely. That's the reason I went to MIT.
That's the reason you went. Okay. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. So, so when you started MIT, KPIT, you started with a childhood friend in Kishore.
Yeah.
Right. I think he was there right at or maybe very soon after the beginning.
Yeah.
And he continues to be the MD of KPIT. Was the MD when I was on the board as well.
Yes.
It's rare in the IT industry to have such long
Associations.
and associations. And I think many of the others, the names that you were mentioning, are are people who are today leading the company and were there as the leadership team years back too. So
Yes.
what's different? But what makes for that special relationship at KPIT?
Yeah. No, I think it has to do with what is it that you are setting out to do when you run a company. And one of the things that has been very dear to our heart, a vision that actually my father also had, is that we want to build an institution. Okay. And you are right, quite a few of my colleagues in KPIT, our senior people, have been my colleagues over 20 years, 30 years. And even on the accounting side, they have had people who have been partners for 30 years. And so it's all about building an institution. Now, when you build an institution, I think you have to remember that you have to share everything. You have to share, I like to say that you have to share cash, you have to share credit, sharing credit means that if you win something, um, you take your people to, kind of celebrate. They get the credit for it. There are times in a startup when you earn less than your juniors because you are trying to get the best of the people from outside. So sharing that is very important. And I think building an organization on foundation of trust and ethics is also very important because any company goes through many ups and downs. At those points in time, you have to have a team which sits together. Every one of them should have a sense of ownership in the company. That sense of ownership comes only after, only if they feel that we are all working towards a common goal. We share the same values. And I think that has helped us grow. So this is the culture part. But also, I think, how do you ensure that there is growth for all of us? So ambition, drive, all these things put together, I think they make for that uh, creation of a very glued, team. And we have been fortunate in being able to do that. And yes, governance is one way of one aspect of that. But we have been looking into governance much before governance became like a popular thing. I
I remember, KPIT went public
yes,
quite early on. I
yes,
think maybe
2000.
2000. So, and I remember even before KPIT went public,
Yes,
um, you setting up all in a fairly small company at that time,
yes,
maybe a 200 crore company.
less than maybe that.
Yeah.
Yes,
At that time, all the governance mechanisms for a much larger company.
yes,
You know, not just a strong independent board, but with an audit committee, with
yes,
independent directors being a majority on the board and on the audit committee,
yes,
uh, uh, you know, with and all the pieces that usually you saw only in much larger enterprises.
yes, yes.
Where did that come from?
So, no, I think it flows basically from this whole issue of integrity. I think it also comes from this thought process of that, um, Naushad, I know, as I told you, we started a chartered accounting company. And when I came back, we were like 10 people firm. So there was no way in which we could have started any large company without taking people's money. And so the sense that uh, this Gandhian idea of trusteeship, that you're doing something for somebody else, you are the trustees of that money, has been very strong. The fact that the ownership of the companies, they have put the stewardship in your hand, but the ownership with those people has been a very strong value. And so the drive for having a proper governance, the drive for having the right people inside on the board, people who would ask questions to you, um, although you have prima facie the boss, are that is driven from that, and I think it is also driven from the fact that, see, if you get so I don't know who said that, but some business leader, US business leader, was asked what is the secret of his success, and he said that my success lies in attracting people to be with me, people who are better than me. And so how do you get better people than you to come to be with you, whether it's board member or advisor or whatever? I think it comes from that. The nature, the requirement for governance comes from that. It's the obligation to the shareholders, and wanted to do good for everyone who has contributed to your growth. So,
Yeah, I know that about that time, you also brought in one of the big external consulting firms to do a training program for all of us board members on governance and on what audit committees were about and what was the role of the chair and so on and so forth. I mean, this is many years ago, yeah, but it was striking. I've been on many boards since, but we haven't gone through that same process. So, yeah. Okay. So how did when at least the KPIT that I remember is a very different organization in terms of the areas of software that the company works in to what it is now.
Yes.
You know, I think at that time, like many Indian IT services firms, the largest customers were all the banks, the foreign banks, right? I mean, especially the US banks. US financial institutions was the single big market. I think that's all changed dramatically, right? And maybe you could talk about
Yeah.
that story and how it's evolved because there was the merger with
Yes.
Birla Software,
Yeah.
and which was a very different culture and so on.
No, I think what we did was really extraordinary from the point of view of anything that has happened in Indian corporate history. So, so I think every industry goes through different phases. And the first phase of our growth, when we came into IT, was this kind of the Wild West phase, you know, where, you see a big open area and you just go and put your stake in as big an area as possible. And that area is yours. And the growth is driven by just sheer passion for growth. And you don't really need a very good strategy for that. You just go out and, sell, build your expertise and sell again. And so, as I said, we started from this very small company. Then we started doing IT uh, of our clients in India. Very natural progression. So, and we started with practically zero capital. And my brother-in-law used to work with the Asian Development Bank, and so he came back from Philippines, and he had a computer with him. And so came back with the computer, and then he didn't know what to do with it. I was very keen to get into computers, and the PCs had become less expensive just about at that time. And so this whole business opportunity of working on PCs started coming in. This was late 80s, early 90s. And uh, sitting in my car with Shirish Patwardhan carrying the laptop literally and on his lap, we came into Pune and we started working with one of our client companies. And we started doing some base work. And then you remember Raja Bahadur Mills.
Yep.
And so they were my audit clients. And got their IT work being done by some company. And they were not very happy. And the owner said, Ravi, I want to get my payroll and accounting done. If you promise to do that for me, I'll give you a commitment for 3 years of work. And with that commitment, we bought our first two computers on hire purchase. So we started with zero capital, really zero capital. And so that was the start. And then naturally, you did any work that came your way. And that went on till we reached a stage of about $700 million of revenue, almost 14,000 people. So we worked in India, then we worked abroad, and we kind of got quite a few clientele. And that was a very interesting time because at $700 million, um, working with 4 or 5 different verticals, banking and financial services, manufacturing, automotive, logistics, working with these 4 or 5 different areas, um, we were still only $700 million of revenue. And there were companies in the world, in India, whose single sector revenues were more than $700 million. And we realized that we were not the leaders. And we were very committed to becoming the leaders. And this whole discussion relating to whether you can afford to be an inch deep and mile wide, or whether you want to be a mile deep and inch wide, that was the debate in the company. And we said that we are willing to share everything that we have and make a complete change. And what we did was really extraordinary. No other company in the country has done that. So when we were about $700 million, our work in the automotive area was about $200 million. And the other thing was, Naushad, that the shareholder, the promoters holding in the company was at that time 17, 18%. So we were profitable, we were high growth, always high growth. But the shareholding was small and leadership was lacking. So we did a very interesting financial transaction. And so there was this other company called Birla Soft. They were a general purpose IT company. They were smaller than us, $400 million or so. And so they merged into us. Okay. And as soon as they got merged, we divided two separate companies. All the non-automotive area we put into them, and all the automotive area we kept with us. And and the shareholders of Birla Soft and the shareholders of KPIT got shares of both the companies. And the shares of KPIT that Birlas had, they gave to us, and the shares of Birla Soft that we got, we gave to them. As a result of which, we were sharply focused, and our share capital brought a lot more stability. You remember, Mindtree
Yeah.
was a very good company. Again, there,
Ashok Sutha.
yes,
Yeah.
and again, Ashok had stepped out at that time, but his whole team was there. They were also $500 million company. The ownership of the promoters was 18%, and uh, they lost the company's control to LMT, and it was not a happy merger. No, they didn't want to go for the merger. So there was an instability. So structurally, there was instability. More than that, we were not very happy with being also ran. And so we started again. I should say our APIT phase two started with a smaller company, very sharply focused, and with a decision that we will not work with anywhere outside of automotive. We will work with only with the top 25 automotive companies in the world. We will work with only those companies who will be strategic to us, but more importantly, we will be strategic for them. And now we are back to $700 million of revenue in 5 years' time. We were only in automotive. Every auto company in the world of name is a client. Uh, very often the clients come to us instead of we going to the client, because in our area of automotive engineering, which is automotive embedded software, I think we are recognized as the best in the world. And
This is this is unique.
yeah, there's no other company in India has done that.
Yeah.
And so you name the best, you name the three large auto OEMs in the US, the three large auto OEMs in Germany, the three large auto OEMs in Japan, some of the bigger ones in China, the ones in France, ones in Germany, etc. Each one of them is our client. And the auto industry is going through extraordinary transformation. And that transformation is driven by software. And we are at the core of that software. I would think that currently there are millions of vehicles across the world who run using KPIT software. And so the profitability is much higher, the share stock value is much higher. But more important than all of that, our self-respect is much higher. The whole team's self-perception is much different. Everybody in the company, kind of breathes automotive, dreams automotive, lives automotive. And so it's nice to be at a stage where you are recognized as leaders. And so that was the transformation of the company. And it involved some risk because we became much smaller. It involved some pain because some of our earlier guys who were dear team members, but who were on the business IT side, we had to part company with them. We had to put them in the other company. And but I must say that our shareholders were very happy because all the shareholders got one stock each of both. Their share value is probably 15 times more than what it was earlier time.
I know. Who was a small shareholder?
No, so I think it has been an extraordinary story.
Yeah.
In that sense. So it's very fulfilling to see what we have done.
Yeah. So, we're going to open it up to questions from the floor fairly soon. But I wonder if I could get you to talk a little bit about the software industry more generally, because KPIT is in such a different place thanks to this focus, this specialization, this work in technology. You've also invested a lot in R&D.
Yes. Yes.
Again, quite unique
Yes.
in the software industry.
Yeah.
Anand is the other exception. and he's going to be here tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I mean, is there something in the water in Pune that bred that uniqueness?
Yeah.
Because if you take Infosys today as one of our leading IT companies, they invest, I think I'm right in saying, 0.6% of turnover in R&D. TCS, under a percent in R&D. Wipro, 0.5, 0.6%. I mean, these are very small numbers,
Yes.
And uh, where did this come from? I mean, it was because it's, you don't, you didn't get questions on why.
No. No, so we invest between 4 to 6%,
Yeah.
and I would like to invest more. And uh, see, Naushad, I mean, first is drive to be the best, right? And and if you're in global competition, uh, uh, you don't have any shelter, right? You have to be at the leading edge, and so we do invest a lot. Uh, mm, we invest in creation of solutions uh, in here. We also invest in buying companies who have done the core work, which we can take forward. Uh, we have, for example, invested in a company in Germany called Technica. Um, and see, our area is very interesting. If I find it infectiously interesting. So, see, till recently, what used to happen was that every automotive, every car was like a collection of mechanical pieces put together, okay, by the OEM, and there was not much of a common thread in it. And there were this whole bunch of electronic control units, ECUs, or computers inside a vehicle.
Yeah.
And from that, the auto industry had changed to, instead of having a mechanical shell with ECUs inside it, it has now become a computer with a mechanical shell around it. And so this is a fundamental change. And that fundamental change is because the car is becoming intelligent. It's becoming intelligent in the way in which the powertrain runs. It's becoming intelligent in the way in which it sees the world around it, whether it is autonomous driving, etc. It is intelligent in the way it communicates with the rest of the world, um, the way in which it gives out its information regarding its diagnostics. So all of that is a lot of intelligence. All that intelligence is, of course, software and connectivity of that software. So you have now a whole bunch of sensors around the car from which information is getting collected, put into this computer, processed, and decisions being taken. So how do you put the sensors? What kind of data should flow from the sensors? What kind of architecture you should have inside a car? What kind of load that architecture will bear? What functions it will do and what it will not do, and with what latency and what frequency? All these things are extremely important. That is the new field of automotive. And so there is IP to be developed in the electronic architecture. There is IP to be developed in every aspect of this function. So if you were to look at the functions in a car broadly, you have a powertrain. And in the old cars, which were like fossil fuel cars, even in the old engines, there is a lot of electronics, 12,000 different variables, and you have to really tune it. That's why, a BMW feels different than a Mercedes. It's the essential core software of that. So there is work in powertrain in the conventional vehicles. There is work in powertrain in the new vehicles. In the, how do you manage the batteries? Um, how do you tune them? How do you run the motors? What kind of controls you should have on motors? Tremendous work in that area. Work in the area of autonomous driving, work in the area of connectivity, etc. So across all these areas of work which make up the new car, an intelligent device, there is electronics. And this is an area where you can innovate and do new things. In addition to what is driving the automotive industry, what has also driven us as a company is this drive towards sustainability. And we are very passionate about it. And as you know, globally, some 16% of all the carbon emissions come from car industry. And so we feel that we need to make a change there. So we have been working on various technologies of sustainability, and that has been an area where quite a bit of our investment money has gone. And so our take right at the initial stage was that small vehicles or short distance vehicles will go the battery way, long distance heavy duty vehicles will go the hydrogen way. And we took a bet on the battery vehicles. And somehow or the other, I have always been feeling for the last 10 years that in an area like energy, a country can't depend on anybody outside. And when the whole battery electric thing started coming up, I was always worried whether we will be we'll be replacing, the Saudi Arabias of the world with some other country which is dominating that. It was China. And so we said that no point in investing in lithium-ion batteries, which is the current, the most important thing. So we said we will look at some new technology, and we started working on sodium-ion batteries. And we started working on sodium-ion batteries some 6 years ago, and a call that we took in the last 1 year, sodium-ion has become a hot commodity. We built India's first sodium-ion battery. We developed the technology the first time here. We are licensed the technology to a large Indian private company. They will come up with those batteries in the market. And that was an area of our research driven by our desire for sustainability. We also looked at hydrogen. We are India's first company which has developed fuel cells in India. Knowing that fuel cell itself is not the solution, we worked on how to make hydrogen, and we looked at biohydrogen, and Pawan knows my passion about that, and how to make hydrogen from biomass, because that is cheaper than electrolyzer, which the world is now looking at. We worked on what kind of trees will be needed to be grown to make the lowest cost biomass, so that lowest cost biohydrogen can be made, so that hydrogen vehicles will be the least expensive. And so we are now taking that technology forward. So the passion for investment in R&D has come from the change that is happening in the automotive industry, and the change that is there very clearly you see in sustainability area. Everything that Trump is doing kind of supports my hypothesis that this is one area where you should not depend on anybody else. Absolutely. Long answer to a short.
No, but it's a no, but it's a very good answer. And it also takes us in two directions. One is uh, automobile, so IT and software for the auto industry means that you can talk about both the future of the IT services
Yes.
and consulting industry from India
Yes.
and the auto industry worldwide. And both are currently,
Yeah.
there's some question over
Extraordinary
transformation change.
Yes.
And people are making, all kinds of predictions about what AI will do to employment in the IT software industry. If you had to look out 5 years, um, how would you see the IT services industry in India 5 years from now, relative to where we are now? Will it employ the same number of people? Will it keep growing? Will it be fewer? Will it by definition become more specialized? What will happen to it? I don't think anyone knows.
Yes.
But different companies are trying to figure it out. Because they're big companies, very successful companies. Their very success is
Yes.
a challenge because it may not be the source of success in 5 years or less. So how do you see the IT services business sort of 5 years out in the country?
Yeah. So a couple of things, Naushad. One is I mean, your specific question on IT services industry as is today, how things will pan out with AI. Or I think a slightly different thing would be what would be the impact of AI on employment in general. Okay. Uh, I believe that IT services industry will change very significantly in the next 1 decade because uh, I feel that the base job of coding will become highly mechanized, and So those of the people who are involved in basic coding will have difficulty in the industry. Uh, the See, coding uh, is your ability to talk to an idiot. Okay, to put very simply, a computer doesn't understand anything,
Yeah.
and you have to write code in such a way that the computer will understand it, which is coding. Um, when the computer starts understanding, you have to talk to it like an adult and not like talking to a child. So, which means that you can give very broad general instructions and it understands that. So, those who are at the coding end in software will have trouble because a lot of coding will be done by computers. And this is especially so for business software, which is what I would think maybe 80% of Indian IT services industry is. And I think there would be a major change. How will the IT services industry change? I think it will depend more and more on the domain specialization. Uh, in our own company, I feel that the nature of talent required will be very different. Uh, the uh, the talent in our company, which is highly specialized, which having worked with 10 different auto companies in different markets in the world, understands what are the key issues in every aspect of world, they will do exceedingly well because their understanding of the domain is very good. The younger people in the company whose minds are open, who are very quick to learn, will do very well because they will know how to converse with a computer in a way in which, this whole the prompt business, I think they will do well. But those people who are like project managers and those who run like an army of people, I don't think they will have much of a future. And I think it's the same for all these IT services industry across. Uh, but does it mean that AI will mean reduction of jobs all across? Uh, Not necessarily. You know, I don't know. It is there's some economist and you eat remember the name. So when the price of something goes down, the consumption increases, right? And so as software becomes easier to write, the areas in which software will be written will be much higher. So if you were to look at in the area of healthcare, for example, lot more software will come. If you have to look at education, lot more software will come. If you have to look at farming and agriculture, lot more software will come. So I think the software talent requirement will go up because it will pervade far more areas. But the conventional area of work will be kind of challenged. I also feel, you know, uh, but that's not probably your question, but about what impact AI as a technology will have on us is is a matter of deep interest to all of us, of course, and as it is to you, and it is to me. Will it make the overall populace more intelligent or dumber? Um, will it make the society cohesive or not? What will it mean to humanity? I think these are the questions which are all for serious discussion. So,
Thanks, Ravi. So now switching to auto and the future of the auto
yes.
industry. So in the auto industry is going through this big change where China has now sort of from nowhere become the world's largest exporter of cars. First, it's overtaken Japan. Uh, a few years earlier, it overtook Germany. Um, and in terms of its leadership in electric vehicles, it seems like a very dominant
Yes.
scenario. Um, Everyone says, it's there's this huge competition, too many 300 electric vehicle manufacturers in China. A huge shakeout is required. The government keeps trying to get that shakeout to happen with no success because all the regional governments back their own firms. Um, you know, it's where do you see this going? And is there you know, given that, for example, the auto industry in Germany is so dominant as a source of employment, exports, success, the wider economy, 20% or whatever of German GDP.
Yes.
In Japan, major source at least of exports.
Yes.
Um, uh, where does this go? I mean, 5 years out,
Yeah. No, this is
is Germany going to make any cars? Japan going to make any cars? Will they all get made in China? Will we have to protect it? Everyone will have to protect the industry against China, or
I think this is an epochal change. Um, the auto industry is in a state of change that it has not changed, that it has not seen in the last 100 years. And there is a change in what a car means. There is a change in how you buy a car. There is a change in who makes the car and who sells the car. Everything is changing. Um, as the the global population goes down, uh, and the urbanization increases, as the concerns for environment go up, um, questions coming up are: is the peak car year around? Maybe 5 years down the line. So that is at a very broad level. One level below that, who is going to lead this industry? And you are right. From almost out of nowhere, China has come up, and they are world's largest car makers. They are world's largest car market. They are world's largest car exporter, and it has taken everybody else by complete surprise. So I was talking to a very senior executive from one of world's best car makers, German, of course. And he said that, Ravi, we were quite sure in Germany that we will have a long lead over China for a long period of time. And I didn't go to China in these 3 years of COVID. And after that, I went there. And what I saw, I could not believe my eyes. Because in 3-4 years, complete change had happened in China in terms of quality of the vehicles. And but as you rightly pointed out, this industry is too valuable for for many nations to let it slip away. And I think what she is now doing is actually waking up the world to the risk of depending on China. And I think there is this basic difference between Deng and Xi. Right? Deng was the quiet strategist who kept on building the strengths without upsetting the customers. And she feels that now it has time for them to show the muscle, and all the bad effects of showing your muscle to your customers are now showing up. And I believe that every country will put up strong protective barriers. I believe that the Germans and the Japanese and the Americans are not just going to roll over. Okay. And very clearly, they have seen what China has done. And what China has done over the years is that they have picked up key technologies like renewable energy, like batteries, like cars. They have done enormous investments in them. Uh, they have brought down the costs so drastically. They have created an extremely competitive economy in their country, and they are willing to spend governmental money. And they are actually playing it. It's as if there are two teams playing against each other. One is playing football and the other is playing cricket. You have the Chinese companies playing really a colonial economics thing, and the rest of the world playing the rule of free capitalism. I think that is about to change. I feel that many countries will put up the defenses. Uh, One of the things that we talk now to our clients across the world is that we will bring to you China quality, China cost, with Indian guarantee of IP protection. And that is something that our customers want. So I believe that the better architectures will come in, better ways in which materials will be used in vehicles will come in. The entrepreneurship is not dead in the US, and Germans may be a little slow, but I think the world will come up with different solutions. It will be a pain for 10 years, uh, but uh, I mean, see, uh, Trump has said that he's going to make investments in AI companies. He's making investment in strategic materials. He is making investments in uh, uh, Intel. You know, so
Yes.
so he's trying to replicate the Chinese game. I'm pretty sure that the Germans will do that too. And so the industry will come up, but it will be a very different texture. Very sad to see the international order of globalization breaking down. And it is like almost like back to the 30s. I was reading a very interesting article as to how things changed in 30s.
Yep.
With Japan and in Germany. And somehow the other you see a reflection of that. So auto industry changing it, but I think others will not just roll over. I don't think so.
So, if you look at where China, which has made these huge leaps forward, I mean, 60% of this world's largest car market is now electric vehicles.
Yes, China.
Uh, and software is at the heart of these vehicles.
Yes.
At least until 5 years ago, we kept saying that China was really world leading in hardware,
Yes.
but nowhere on software.
Yes.
Where did the software capability suddenly come
Yeah.
from?
So actually, if you were to look at architecturally, Chinese cars are not very good software architecturally. I think they understand that better than them. I think they know that we understand it better than them. But see, in every industry there is an outlier. Okay, so if you were to look at the US car industry, Tesla is an outlier, and Tesla is probably 2 generations ahead of the rest of the cars in the US because Elon Musk started from a clean sheet, and so he said, okay, if you are to make a world class car, what kind of electronic architecture will be required? What kind of chips will be required? So from the design of chips to electronic articles,
To the whole batteries in parallel.
completely, so he reinvented the car. And so if you were to look at a parallel to that in China, you see BYD. BYD is like that. But the rest of the companies are not necessarily like that. Where China is doing well, um, China is of course doing well in AI, but China's AI is on a very different model. So if you were to look at, and we all read about deep sea, and we see, China is doing so much better at so little cost, etc. Uh, and so the model of AI in China is different, which depends on the huge amount of data that they have collected over almost everything all over these years, where privacy is, not questioned. The issue of privacy doesn't come up, and they have government support for AI, and their direction in AI is actually consumer focused and all open source, and so they have done well. But just because they have done well in AI doesn't mean that China is doing well on software as such. I would make a distinction.
Okay, good. Thank you. I have one last question, and then I know right at the end, after then we'll open it up for questions, and then Ranjan will have the last question on reading. So, um, so my last question is actually moving away from all of this to Pune. Yeah, uh, born brought up in Pune. I've been in Pune since I was 7, so I think
Yeah, more or less.
my life. Yeah, we love the city. We're frustrated by the city at different times.
Yes.
We worry about the infrastructure. Uh, we are proud of the people more than anything else. Um, what you've been pretty involved in different Pune initiatives.
Yes.
I wonder if you'll talk a little bit about what's the future of Pune. Uh, when we moved, Nayanta, it was going to come up in Hyderabad,
Yes.
and it moved to Pune now a year and 8 months, 9 months back. Um, and we're very happy with the call that we took to make the move to Pune. We've received great support from the political leadership. We worry about the um, some of our rules and regulations.
Yes.
And we've said also that after we finish the last step in the entire regulatory process and are fully, fully compliant with everything, the last check box, then we will work with the government to simplify the higher education rules so that the next university that comes along doesn't have to go through what we've gone through. Right. And we can give you lots of stories. But anyway, um, uh, but what's your take on Pune? What's your take on uh, where we are, what we should do?
Yeah.
As
Yes. So I think Pune is a classic case of a growing city which is not a state capital. Uh, so the state capitals in the country are also having trouble, like Bangalore has, Mumbai has, but people look at it differently. More money goes there. Pune is probably the only city in the country which is of our size and which is not a state capital. And so problems of Pune are, I think, can be generally stated as the problems of urban India. And I think they are awful problems, but I believe that there is a place of transition. I believe as India urbanizes, uh, more of political voters will come from cities. Their impact on the political system will be much higher. And I think we'll be heard more than what we have been heard in the last 40 years. But I think every aspect of every urban government is a problem. And as you rightly said, I've been very deeply engaged with Pune. So we do currently a lot of work on solid waste management in the city. We work on maintenance of rivers in the city. We work with education in the schools in the city, etc. But it is like there's a Marathi saying that if the sky is falling, how much you can stitch. So you and me working on putting this, you can't stitch if the sky is falling. So I think the urban management has to change, and so we are working on two, three things. One is that as a part of PIC Pune International Center, the think tank, we are coming up with how cities should be managed in the country. How do you ensure that there is a sense of responsibility to be put on the shoulders of one individual? How can you have a mayor CEO, no, rather than the current structure? So we are working on that, and we are hopeful that some change will happen. The second thing that we are doing is that working with Niti Aayog, we are coming up with a Pune development plan. Uh, it was announced very briefly recently, but so we are working with McKinsey and ISEC and Niti Aayog and with Government of Maharashtra to come up with a major plan as to how Pune can be put. And so what Pune as an education city, Pune as an IT city, Pune as an automotive hub, Pune as a light engineering vehicle, light engineering company, etc., a light industry company. We are working on these themes, and I believe that hopefully in the next years, 10 years, a lot of things will change. Uh, I think you have to be an eternal optimist.
You do.
To stay anywhere in this country.
Yeah.
And so I believe that will change. Yeah.
We have, we would be very happy in Nayanta to work and support and help in any way we can on the development and and actually to build up. You know, we did a conversation with Bimal Patel.
Yes.
In Ahmedabad, and one of the things that he mentioned was that he said one of his big themes is that our land use regulations in our cities is completely outdated. We have amongst the most inefficient land use regulations of any country, right? He's changed them in Ahmedabad, right? He based his changes on documents that he found, which were put down by a British urban planner in Pune. He found them and extracted them from the municipal corporation planning department.
Yeah.
Took them to Ahmedabad, and he's made these changes in Ahmedabad's land use regulations. And we've said actually that, we must now work with him and make the same changes happen.
It sounds so familiar.
Yes.
Because at Janavani, one of the organizations that I started, we work on solid waste management in the city. One of the after we did work for 2 years and did really well, people from Indore came to learn from us, and then they went back and implemented what we were doing on a small scale here. And last 5 years, Indore is the cleanest city in the country, and Pune is probably number 10. So Pune has this ability to come up with ideas and export them to somebody. Absolutely.
So, thanks. Let's open it up for questions, comments from everyone. So, should we take like 2 or 3 at a time, or you prefer one at a time, or one at a time? Sure. Let's start with Agarj. Yeah. And yeah, you need to use the mic, otherwise we'll get protests from.
First of all, thank you very much for the care. I think it's an absolute honor to hear from you directly about your journey. Since these are leadership conversations, my question is on leadership. I'm curious to know about your leadership framework that you fall back on, especially when there are tough decisions to be made. You practically build a company for the last 40 years, and you've seen ups and downs in situations, where you have to balance the short and the long. How do you really make those decisions? What's your framework to actually make that decision?
Interesting question. So, the tough calls come in actually with reference to almost every stakeholder. And if you have to look at the running of a company, a stakeholder is a customer, a stakeholder is a shareholder, a stakeholder is an employee. And there are tough calls to be taken in all these areas at times. When it comes to a customer, the tough calls actually involve looking at what the customer's current perceived interest is and what is long-term interest. So I'll give you an example. We were, right on our initial days, when we just went public, we used to work with a bank called NatWest. So, and NatWest came to us telling us to do some particular piece of software for them. And we looked at that and we told them that this is not a good decision for you. And they said, but this is the job for you. So we told them, no, we don't want to do the job because this is not the right thing for us to do. And they gave the job to somebody else. It failed, and they came back to us, and they became a very core customer for us. So looking at long-term interest and short-term interest, especially when it comes to a customer's interest, is very critical. And we have always taken the call that we will do what is right. You see, the issue is, as a leader, you also have to look at how your people look at themselves. Do your people look at themselves as value adding people to the customer, or do they look at themselves as money extractor from the customer? And we have always taken the stance right from since we were only a chartered accounting company that we will go back that value part. The second thing is also on how do you look at your long-term interest when it comes to shareholders? And I give you an instance. So, when we went public, our issue was oversubscribed 50 times. 50 times. And this was the first issue that came up after the Harshad Mehta scam. The market was dead. And so we came in, and because of our accounting company name, etc., a lot of people put in money. And we didn't realize our pricing was not right. We priced our 10 rupees share at 90 rupees when INM was telling us 50 rupees, and I had to fight to take it to 90. I wish I had taken to 150 because we were 50 times oversubscribed, and we had this huge amount of money sitting in our bank. I had never seen so much of money in my life. But and at that time, what used to happen was that you had something like 6 months before you processed all that and refunded the money. And a lot of companies, and I remember another company went public, right? Indian Pune software company went public after us. They also had some excess issue. They kept the money for 6 months because legally it was allowed. I instructed our people that in the shortest period of time, the money must go back to the shareholders if we are not giving them the shares. And I think we had a turnaround time of like 12 days, which was a record. I think even till today, nobody has done that. We refunded the money. because we essentially told the shareholders that if we are not going to give you shares, we have to give you our money back. And my people worked over the weekends to make sure that happened. Even now, our long-term shareholders recognize that. So you take a long-term call in this context. You also have to take tough calls when it comes to your employees, you know. And another story, as after we went public, um, our big customer was NatWest, and we were doing the work in Greece, and they shut down that branch. And uh, for the first time in my life, we had a time when we had a loss. One quarter we had loss, and we had to completely reorganize. We had to let a lot of our people go because the company just came down. And but we saw to it that, and that was a boom time for the IT industry. We helped every one of our people get different jobs, and so we had to sack people, but we did it in such a way that people knew that there was no alternative to the company, and the company did the best that they could do for them. So taking tough calls is really a part of a top management decision, but you have to be fair, you have to be equitable. um, it's like behave with your neighbor the way you would like him to behave with you, right? So you have to behave with your employee the way in which you would like your boss to behave with you if you were an employee. And I think that makes for not only short term decisions, but it also makes for long term association, because you don't want to be in a business for the quarter, much less for the month. You want to be in the business for generations, right? Yeah. And all these things are building blocks of how do you really build a company.
Go back. We'll go take one there, and then I'll come here, and then come back.
Very insightful discussion. I have several questions, but I'll only ask two. Okay, wow. So let me ask this one.
Then we can go around to everyone.
Because I am from R&D, and now I can clearly see that why you have written that book, Leapfrog to Cold War India. But if you look at the real context in India, right, most of the companies, they focus more deep part of the R&D, right? And the investment in R&D is very, very limited. The 7 reports are out there. Even Niti Aayog started talking about this. And in India, like we have only 0.6% of the GDP. So I want to have your opinion, since I think you have done it and you have demonstrated, right? What should be doing in the country, right? Definitely the capability building has to be done. Both basically what has to be done in the university, in the academia, and what has to be done in the industry.
Very important. Actually, Naushad is a person you should be asking this question to, because he does a lot of work in that area. But I have some views in that. Okay. Um, I think to make R&D happen in companies, there has to be factors which satisfy both greed and fear in a company. Okay. When I say greed, I feel that you should incentivize doing R&D in such a way that the person who puts in the money for the R&D is motivated by the chance of getting a lot of money back. Okay. And so and if you were to look at China's illustration example in this case is very important. Okay. So in India, when we talk about promoting R&D, we talk about supporting the research part. Okay. By giving some tax benefit or by giving some contribution to research, etc. But no company does research because they can get partially funded for research. A company does research because it is able to sell a lot later on. So what is really required, in my opinion, and which is what I have been talking to Niti Aayog, is that don't just stop at giving some incentives for the PLI and stuff like that. Say that you will give a purchase commitment. So the government should give a purchase commitment saying that if you come up with a product which meets this quality standard and this cost, then through our purchase commitment, we will help you increase the scale. And for every increase in scale, you drop down your price. And you don't do this deal with a single company, you do the deal with 10 companies at the first round, 5 companies at the second round, 3 companies at the third round. So there is a lot of contest between the companies. So this is one thing. So I think something that needs to be done on the incentive side. I think on the disincentive side is that nothing is a bigger motivation to an industry to innovate than the fear of death. So I think the government should come up and say that these areas, we are giving the Indian industries 5 years to reach this scale. At the end of the fifth year, we are going to reduce our import duties on these and these and these products over the next 5 years by 20% each or something. And after that, you are open to the world competition. So we will help you become world competitive in the first 5 years, and we will ensure that you will stay world competitive in the next 5 years. I think that is what we need to do. And that can make a huge difference, in my opinion.
Thank you. Fully agree. Yeah. So yeah, we go to okay, Pradyu.
I had two questions, but I will ask one.
Thank you.
So this transition, how difficult was the decision that you took, that KPIT took to go into auto sector? And what was the challenge that you faced with the management team within KPIT at that time? So how do you navigate?
Yeah. Tough time. Because you see, as I said earlier, quite a lot of our people had been working with us for many years at the time of that decision that we took 5 years ago. And so there were people who worked with us for 15 years, 20 years, who are very attached to us. See, people work with the company because they like working in the company, right? I mean, it's not just how much money you make, right? And so those people, when you have to say that, you know, uh, I am going to put you on somebody else's lap, uh, it's not a very, it's not a very uh, happy conversation. It's a very painful conversation. So almost 60% of what people had to put in the other company. And we ensured that the company that they went to, which is Birla Soft, we spent a lot of time with Mr. Birla, with Mrs. Birla, to understand how they deal with people, to ensure that our people will be safe there. So, and I used to say that it is almost like getting your daughter married, right? You are giving it to some other family. You want to ensure that in that family, she'll be happy. Okay. So it was difficult, but we had to do it because now, people have grown. That company has also grown as we have grown. So short-term pain for long-term is there.
So one question. So yeah,
What's just one?
We'll come back. We have time. Yeah, go ahead.
Correct. Thank you for giving insight into auto space. Auto space is a very happening one. I only one question. Since the EV story, the world has lost to the China. World has lost this story to the China. The green hydrogen is a very fascinating story. So, I mean, where the world is and where we are, and how affordable this idea is having a green.
So Pawan has to hear what I keep on saying all the time. No, but see, I must tell you something. In the world of technology, um, uh, the winner is not final. So I wouldn't agree that in the area of EVs, battery EVs, the battle is over. I wouldn't agree. I believe that in the current situation, China has strength in lithium-ion batteries. It has strength in motors, which are really two main components of an electric vehicle. In both these areas, significant changes will happen. If you were to look at typical lithium-ion batteries, and LFP is the current choice of chemistry. The watt hour per kg is 150 to 170. In very unusual cases, it goes to 300, but those are expensive. With sodium-ion batteries, I think we will do 190. With sodium-ion batteries, we can do it at less than $50 per kilowatt hour. And just as we are working on that, there I am sure 10 companies working in some garages somewhere who will come up with a different chemistry. And uh, the sun on a new technology shines only for some period of time. Okay? And some other technology comes from the sun. So I personally believe that the battle on batteries is not lost. The battle on PV cells is not lost. Okay, currently it is all silicon, but perovskites are around the corner. Okay, they can make a big impact. The point is that how can you think of something which will make an impact 8 years from now? What happens, unfortunately, with many of us is we see a technology and we want to race up to that in 2-3 years. Nothing happens in 2-3 years. If you are to look at China's journey on these technologies, it's 15 years, 20 years of investment. We must sow those seeds now. Okay. So that is as far as these batteries are concerned. Coming to hydrogen. Hydrogen is a race which had just about started. Okay. I believe that so there are two ways in which you can make green hydrogen. Okay. Just going one step back. There are two ways. One is the electrolyzer route, and the second one is the biohydrogen route. The electrolyzer route, I'm sorry, I'm going to bit of technical, but I think it's hard to be avoided. Okay. So electrolyzer route, the cost is of two things. How do you use the energy, which is, it has to be solar if it is green. And how do you cost the electrolyzer? In most of the cases, the energy requirement is something like 50 rupees, 50 units to a kg of hydrogen. Research can be done to bring it down to 30, 35. Okay. That can bring down the cost. The cost of solar cells has to go down and the cost of green power has to go down. If there is a company which can have solar cells in most of the day and pumped hydro in the remaining part of the day, the cost of electricity can be down. With both these things combined, the cost of hydrogen can come down. But these are challenges to address over a period of time. Biohydrogen, in our opinion, can be currently done at 150, 40 or 150 rupees per kg green hydrogen. Okay. Which will mean that a selling cost can be 200 rupees or so per kg for a hydrogen plant. And a dispensed hydrogen to a vehicle can be like 250 rupees a kg. It will be cheaper to drive that hydrogen vehicle than to drive a diesel vehicle today. Okay. And we are working on those areas. We believe that it can make an extraordinary impact on the energy scenario in the country. It can make a big impact for agriculture income, for agriculture employment. I feel that as AI takes out some jobs, these clean industry jobs need to come up. And they can be like, millions of jobs can be created like this. So in my opinion, an ecosystem needs to be built of hydrogen. Okay. And I talked about hydrogen generation. Then the issue is hydrogen consumption. You can consume a hydrogen in multiple industrial areas. You can work it in steel and fertilizer, etc. The largest user is of course going to be mobility, and you can use it with hydrogen ice or you can use it in fuel cell. We invested for the last 8 years in developing fuel cells, and we can make world's least cost but very high efficiency fuel cells worlds. And I believe that you combine that with the rest of the value chain, this is an extraordinary place for India to take a lead. And we want to work in that area. My whole attention is focused on that area now. I hope I am successful.
Yeah. Go to Vivek, then Mehul, then at the back there, then to Prem. Yeah.
Yeah, my question is a little different. I haven't stopped about hydrogen, but first, congratulations on the success KTI has had and the sharp choice that they are doing on the software domain for computer has taken you to a leadership position. And when you're at a leadership position of this stature, an Indian company, maybe two things that will concern you. One is complacency, and second is being actually losing out on that position, how we've got that particular situation. I can go in both ways. So, what is the kind of ecosystem thought process is it commonly to actually ensure that you stay at the leadership?
Yeah. So uh, the kind of statement ascribed to Andy Grove that
Only the paranoid survive.
only the paranoid survive. And I'm very paranoid. It is my job to keep the top management in the company paranoid. It is the job of the board of the directors to keep us paranoid. And so luckily is that the fear of death is very real, huh? Because of the continuous changes that are happening. And uh, so the specter of death combined with the possibility of becoming really the best, I think is a very good motivator. And uh, you have to guard against complacency. Uh, uh, in the current era, with so much happening on AI and so much happening on automotive, I don't think any of my top leaders sleep easy. Okay, I don't sleep easy, and uh, so the challenges are there, and the the question is always, how do you keep a big distance between the circle of what you want to be and the circle of what you are? Okay, so if you keep on expanding your circle of what you want to be, that distance between the two can keep you moving. And uh, and I mean, what was ascribed to Jack Welch is that if you are number one or number two in any industry, it's time for you to first redefine the industry or look for another industry where you will be one or two. So that is something which is on the minds of all of us all the time. But no, we are far away from complacency.
That's not a problem. Okay. Great. Mail? Yeah. Behind you.
Pleasure hearing you. And some of us know you well, not meeting you, but seeing you through eyes of Sudhir.
Oh,
So, sir, it's a very strong
So Sudhir and I were on the board together.
yes.
Okay, wow. We'd like to hear some more about it some occasion. I wanted to know the mindset when you create bigger bets. And just today morning, we had excellent session from Ram Goa on history. So is there lessons in history of when you took the big bet on, going the automotive route, and now you gave future bets in that context, because future is not only EV or hydrogen. There are drones coming up, and there are the vehicle industry, the automotive as we know today, 10 years now might completely change. I was like personally fascinated sitting in Waymo and, like having no driver besides me.
Yes.
Navigating through streets of California.
Yes.
So that's bound to completely change. So is there any history? Is there any lessons in the way you paid your bets in the past that enables you to place similar bets in future? And the nuance part, what you'd like to know is, when we play our bets, what are the kind of things that we should base our thinking on? And when there's uncertainty, right? We don't know all that.
Interesting question. See, it's a matter of striking a balance. Huh? You cannot remains where you are, but you cannot move very fast. So you have to take care of the present and you have to take care of the future. The bets that you take should be well thought through, with proper fallback options, with proper working of the consequences of your action. And in any team, you will find that there are people who are risk averse, and there are people who are risk takers, and you need to have a healthy exchange of discussion on that, and figure out your way through it. And so the learning is sometime not taking a risk is the biggest risk. Mm. But taking a very big risk is also a big risk. So, how do you manage? And like everything in life, I think you have to balance things right. They say that the hallmark of a first-rate mind is to have two completely opposite thoughts and still navigate your way, right? And that is what you really have to do all the time. Right.
So, from this conversation, let clear that we have a lot on the software side and also the energy batteries, and you do very well that the next part is hardware, right? Chips, and especially the secure chips are very critical for sub 35 vehicle. Your company are be interested in the plan to have a own chip design. Right? Given that the whole ecosystem is coming nicely in India, we are trying to put our own fab packaging. So just
Yeah. No, it's absolutely important. Absolutely important. And the fact that we are getting finally into chip manufacturing is very critical. I believe that we will start with a certain size of nanometer and keep on going down and down and down, so that we are coming to the latest and the best. You see, I like to, my favorite theory is that any living organism or any machine is a triangle with three vertices, okay, three ends. One end is the intelligence, second is the energy, and the third is the materials. So you can say the bits and the bytes, the electrons and the atoms. And every human being or every living being or every tree has intelligence, energy, and material, which is a scaffolding of that. Okay. If you were to look at an automotive, the intelligence lies in the electronic hardware and software, which we need to work on. The energy lies in the batteries or the fuel cells or etc., etc. And the materials are what really construct a vehicle, or every machine that is there in the world. I think we need to work on all these three to be really good. And all these three areas are areas of tremendous uh, um, research potential and innovation potential. And I personally believe that the world is changing very rapidly, and it's changing in all these three dimensions. And we need to work on all three of them.
Prem, Asim, and then we'll have to end with Ranjan, I think. Sorry. Okay, we come.
good evening. One comment and one question. Comment, thanks for the all insights. It's very wonderful. And more than happy to have that insights. Though you are from IT industry, but I think you know more than many of us as engineers. So thanks for all your insights. Just a different question. How do you compare your VAPP value added purpose and the profitability with the peers, India and globally? And what is the aspiration in next 5 years?
Very interesting. So our value added per person is probably among the higher ones in the Indian industry. But over the period, we see a significant change happening because of 2-3 reasons. See, and it always starts with the customer. So our customer, especially the non-Chinese customer, is extremely hard pressed in his business. He is looking for three things in this order of priority. He is looking for speed, he is looking for very good quality, and he is looking for cost reduction. Cost reduction is not the first, it's the third. That is going to drive the changes in which our industry is going to deliver. So I believe the industry is going to deliver far more packaged solutions and far less custom solutions. And those packaged solutions are going to be far more AI driven than ever before. which means that the people impact in the delivery of these solutions is going to go down. While it will not be completely product driven, but it will be more like a solution driven. So if you are from the IT industry, for example, there was a time when people wrote software for their own ERP, etc. Now SAP does most of the work, or Oracle does most of the work. Something similar going to happen in almost every industry. And so that would mean the value added per person will significantly increase.
Asim?
Good evening, Mr. Pandit. Thank you very much for this inspiring address. Personally, it was very inspiring to me. Pune to MIT is what you mentioned, and that was you fighting. I have a special interest in the education sector, and that's why I'm going to digest a bit from the business person that came in here to, education. In the initial part of the conversation, you mentioned that MIT had a significant role to play in your, development, and then you came back and you started a new business. What I wanted to ask you is, like, do you see MITs and Stanfords coming up in India, maybe in future? If maybe what it takes, or is it possible? Firstly, and if it's possible, then what it takes for what are the USDs for creating that MITs and Stanfords in India?
Asim, to successfully finish the course, he can't ask that question by the end of the year. Of course.
So your question is actually in two parts, right? Will actual MITs and Stanfords come here? And secondly, will we build our own MITs and Stanfords? Both things are very important. I believe that there is no harm or shame in learning from someone who somebody has done it. I believe that to invite global institutions here would be a good thing. But I think we need to do a lot in our educational framework. Like Naushad was telling, starting Nayanta has not been a very happy walk. So I think we have to do that for many universities, at least the major universities. I believe that Trump is doing a lot to ensure that good people leave US.
Yeah.
Good students don't come to US.
Correct. He's helping a huge amount.
Tremendously. And no time is better than this to actually change the game.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we should invite. But more importantly, we have to build our own MITs and Stanfords. So the work that Naushad and team are doing here in Nayanta, or the work that Ashish Dhawan is doing, it's
Ahmedabad University.
University, or
Laksha.
so many, Reliance is also setting a university. I think that's a very good thing. And so because it is getting painfully, abundantly clear that our current universities, the way in which they are run, are not going anywhere. And so private energy has to come into this area. I believe that if we can get our faculties back from the US, and if we change the way in which we run our universities, things can work wonders. Because we have so many students in the country that even a small percentage of them being extraordinarily good can mean a large number. And just as I feel very strongly that our cities have to change, I believe our education has to change. And see, in our industry, half of the work that we do is to run an education institute, right? And because we work with software, we work with universities, teaching their teachers what to teach. We work with their students in the last 2 years, teaching them what they really need to learn. Then we get them and then we teach them again. And I'm sure that every good company has to do that. I mean, it's not just our industry. Every good company has to do that. How nice it would be if the education institutions did their work. Yeah. And I believe that, and on the other hand, I feel if we don't do it, we are in for a big trouble. Our politicians like to talk about demographic dividend and I keep on worrying about demographic disaster. Because if we don't do a good job in education, we really will have problems.
Yep.
Very much.
Back, thanks. And then to Ranju. I think we'll have to. So,
Yeah.
if you ask a really good, sharp question, then we can take another one also. Thank you.
About lesson that clearly and coming from the steel, I got be on the automotive, but obviously last 10 years it's been a very different story. My question is that in this highly value adding and at a fast paced growth, at a fair thing, how do you select your team? The core team.
Very important question. Actually, it's a topic for a bit. No, so it's a whole bunch of things. Yeah. So it really boils down to what kind of people you get at the first level, at fresher level, what kind of people you get at lateral level, what percentage of your people you promote for any job, and how many you get from outside. What do you do to test the people coming freshers or laterals? What do you do to train the people who are there? And what do you do to leave the people who don't shape up? All these things are extremely valuable, extremely important. Till recently, like every other software company, we were a large recruitment engine, right? Every software company, that's all. That's only machinery. That's the only material, everything that we have. And so I think we have built a very good mechanism for tracking freshers. So we run a program called PACE. So we work with 15, 20 colleges in the country whom we have selected to go there for improvement. You don't necessarily go only to IITs for everything. But we have found some really interesting, good talent coming from second tier cities. Okay, but from good colleges. We define a good college as a college who has an enthusiastic professor, because he's the one who defines what kind of teaching we get there. So how do you select these freshers? What kind of drill you put them through? There was a time when we used to have 8 months of training. We have got it down to 1.5 months. Okay. How do you ensure that when they are ready, they are immediately on the job and the client is willing to say that, this is a good resource. Okay. So how do you do that? How do you do career planning for people? How do you ensure that people are allowed to move within the organization? These are very critical questions. And we spend a lot of energy on that, because that is our business, right? That's the only thing that is there in our business, apart from the customer and the technology, it's people.
Yeah.
Last question, and then we'll go to Ranju. I think does that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just a related question to the what my colleague has asked just now. So KPIT is a profitable company. Very consistently, we have done a profit that we have made improving on year-to-year basis very consistently. You mentioned in your conversation that the people who have been attached with you have been attached for a very long time. So what kind of employees aims or ventures aims do you fart so that keep them motivated? Because IT industries has a very high attrition, which is also a very big issue. So how do we address and keep people motivated for such a long time?
Yeah, interesting. So as you know, attrition is at the intersection of demand and supply in the industry. And as luck would have it, attrition has not been the big problem for the last year and a half, which is a not unwelcome relief. But on the same, only retain people is very important. Now, so retention is, of course, 2-3 things. One is how do you keep them attracted financially, or how do you keep them attracted in non-financial way? Both these things are extremely important. Financial incentives include long-term as well as short-term. In times when, last 1 year, the growth in our industry has slowed down, and our company also has slowed down. Before that, we used to grow like 25 to 35% every year, and our stock value has gone through the roof, and that stock options make a big difference, and we have used that as a very effective. It's time for us now to relook at that, for people to are now coming in. There is also long-term non-ESOP incentive. We have to work on that. There's a lot of work between our HR and finance people to work out permutation combinations, because you have to satisfy the employees and the shareholders at the same time. It's a tightrope walk, so we have to do a fair amount of work of that. But I think apart from the financial part, the financial part is also very important. Our own experience has been that since we have become a very focused forum, the level of morale in the company has gone up, and people come to KPIT because they love automotive, and they would not get this kind of work even if they were to go to all the OEMs who have their GCCs or global competence center here. So how do you put meaning in their work? How do you put challenge in their work? How do you relate their work to something good to the world? Okay. I mean, I tell this story very often, that it's a famous story you must have heard. So a person asked a bricklayer, what was he doing? He said he was laying bricks. The second guy said he was building the wall. The third guy said he is building the house of the God where people will come for generations to come. The issue is what context and meaning that you put in the work of your people. So we'd have to put the context, saying that you will make safer cars, less accidents. You will make cleaner cars, better air. You will make more connected cars, smarter cars. And that will that is something that your children and grandchildren will say that, this is what my forefathers did. So I think putting meaning in the work of life of people is also important. You have to do both. But you have to also remember that everybody has his own aspiration. Okay. People have aspirations sometimes. So typically, what we have noticed is that if a person leaves KPIT and goes somewhere else, to a very small select band of people, they might get 100% job. Okay. People would typically not leave the company if they are getting up to 20-25% extra. And we have found that sometimes people get these big jumps and then they stagnate. And then 2-3 years later, they come back because they say that the allure of money is much less, but the happiness of working in this environment is much higher. So you have to, we also do a lot of work on succession planning. If somebody were to leave at one point in time, do we have somebody who's ready now? Do we have somebody who's ready in the next 2 years to take up? Because everybody has career aspirations. Our thought is that we tell the people, we want to have a situation that you may go out of KPIT, but KPIT will not go out of you. There is a part of KPIT which will always remain in you. That is what we want.
So now, we should wind up. Is it taking 1-2 questions? Here and then Ranjan's last question, and if anyone else puts their hand up tomorrow morning.
So, in fact, a lot of HR questions got answered and were very insightful. But this question is something which is to do with you being an Indian and, very much from the soil of Maharashtra, Mumbai, and Pune. So, what is your vision of India, and what would be your one message for Indians?
A nice, easy, short question. Yeah. I'm a very proud Indian. I'm a very optimistic Indian. I believe that this century is ours. I believe that all of us have to work together. I also like this sentence from Bertrand Russell. It says that human beings act rationally, but only after exploring all other alternatives. So in India, we have explored a lot of other alternatives of managing our cities, managing our governments, etc.
I think we will coalesce to a single area. I feel disheartened by the fact that we don't have a competitive political environment. But I believe that over a period we will develop it, because I think that there is no better medicine for good quality than competition. And I think if that happens, we will also do well in that sphere. But yeah, I think we have within us to become the leaders. We have to do a lot more work.
Wow. Great, and thank you so much for the session. So just coming from the organization that I come from, which is CII, while at the one hand, there is so much of AI that is coming in, and as you also said that, it is going to start permeating across several number of sectors. And as it does that, there will be displacement not only of people, but even of the, people down the supply chain, let's say the MSMEs. So how do we kind of factor in this displacement, and what is it that we can do as leaders in your sector, in your industry, to kind of minimize the collateral damage that would happen as we move forward on this technology path?
So I'm actually writing a series of 3 limping blocks on the impact of AI. Okay, and I see the risk of AI at 3 levels, and the actions that we need to take on that basis. At first level, I feel that AI might dumb us down. And so simple thing, for example, there was a time when I could remember at least 10 telephone numbers. Now I remember only my voice. Okay, which means I downloaded my memory to the computer. I used to know tables at least till 29. Okay, I don't know how many are the current keys to. So we are downloading our calculating ability. And so till recently, we could work with computers because at least some of us told the computer what to do. With AI, the computer will know how to do things once it broad framework is given. So that dumbing down is a serious threat. That doesn't mean that everybody will become dumb, but unless there is somebody who is under competitive pressure to perform, or who is just driven by himself to do something, I think for the rest, I think people can become dumb down, which would mean that I think the second peril to me from the AI is the disruption of the society. Because, if you look at the stock market, for example, in the US, the top 4 or 5 companies which are given by the AI, they are all the stock market. Everything else is kind of down. And if you do it to look at incomes of people, it's got to be the same. So the disparity of the incomes will be high. The only redeeming feature in that context, as I see, is that global populations are going down, and possibly AI with robotics will probably help in that context. The bigger bigger risk I feel from AI is I'm calling it as disentrenchment of human leads, because slowly and slowly, if they do everything, where are we? So I see risk at variety of levels over a period of time, but I believe that we can use it as our benefit. As I said, there is enormous amount of work to be done in almost every sphere of our endeavor. There are tremendous energy jobs that can come up. There are a lot of education jobs that can come up. There are a lot of urban environment jobs that can come up. There are a lot of new farming jobs that can come up. And actually, there are a lot of jobs that can come up in the pure entertainment. See, for example, if instead of working 8 hours a day for 5 days a week, we work for 3 hours a day for 4 days in a week. Okay, the remaining time can be available for taking care of nature or doing a whole bunch of things. I believe also that as we have more AI plus robotics put together, the cost of many things can go down. So the income may go down, but the cost can go down also. So the overall living standards may not suffer a lot. So I believe that we can look at it as really an opportunity, tremendous opportunities in healthcare. So at least there are 5-6 fields that we need to pick up and say that these are the ones which will really help mitigate the risk or the damage of AI. I feel that a lot of thought has to go into that as to how we do this. Because if we don't do it well, we can have serious consequences over the next 2-3 decades.
Last.
On that, not very. I don't feel very happy to conclude, but I mean, there is a serious issue.
So, I think I enjoyed the way the conversation scheduled values, culture, strategy, process, and will all link together very nicely. So, this is a university question. And the origin of the question is, how do leaders learn? So, that's the broader question. But the immediate question is, tell us a bit about your reading habits. And then beyond the reading habits, if you want to comment on how do you stay a learner? The first question is,
So, everybody has interest areas, right? So my interest area, as you would have gathered by now, is science and technology. And I read a lot in that area. I read a lot about in areas about what are the new development in physics. Because, the physics that I learned when I was in school, then the physics that was there 10, 15 years ago and the physics that is there today is very different. And I read authors like Carlo Riboli. He's very good in making the physics understandable to a common man. I read recently a very interesting book by this author called Frank Wilczek. He's a Nobel laureate. He's written a book called Fundamentals. Extremely interesting book about what are the 9 fundamental things in physics which make for the whole world. Very nice. I read that. I read a lot about AI. There are good authors, Max Tegmark there, Russell. So I read books on that. I'm also very deeply interested in economics. And so I read books in that area. But you see, what has happened is that now learning is not restricted to books, right? And so you can learn a lot from YouTube videos. And I do 40 minutes of elliptical every morning to keep me okay. And it's 40 minutes of YouTube. And there are very good YouTube videos of Farid Zakaria and this Milkant, what is Bosch or something, or most of the scientists. There is a very good channel called World Science Festival. If you have not seen it, see, it's very good. There's this guy called Brian Green, Professor Brian Green. He runs that. And he brings in people from different fields. And it's a fireside chat about 40 minutes or so. Very, very interesting. Very fascinating. So I do a lot of that. So some bit of reading. Plus, I read, of course, MIT Technology Review. It's the best magazine that you can think of. I read Economist, always. Bloomberg. So, yeah, I do a lot of that reading. I don't get enough time to read. Works keep on interrupting.
It's a very complete answer.
Right. Ravi, thank you so much for such a great conversation and for so patiently answering so many.
No, I really excellent questions, but I'm told that this is the first day of this cohort.
Yes.
I don't think you have gone through the rigor of an academic day in last 30 years. Yes, for many of us. So you must be more tired than I am at the end of the day. But I appreciate your questions. Personal pleasure that I have kept everybody awake, even the last guy there, So I will.
But thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Very wonderful.